Hi, this is a fuller explanation of the layered colored pencil worksheet that I gave you in class. So in case you're struggling or you have some important questions, here's the first place you should check. First of all, you'll notice that you should put your name at the top of the paper. Second, you're going to notice that you're going to be asked to do something that you've done multiple times in class. You choose the color, but to create a blended value scale, you're going to select, again, one color, just like the black and white version is down below, and you're going to create an absolute solid version of that color and as seamlessly as possible have that blend and fade out to become white. Again, it should be seamless so that we can't see the transition between the medium values and the white. The other three all operate similarly, except what you're going to be asked to do is to place a color, again of your choice, two analogous colors in the first one. If you remember from vocabulary, we talked about analogous are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, neighbors. So I've chosen sort of a rose tone and a pink. They're both tints of red, so I chose both of those colors. On one side, you're going to see, just as the instructions say, you're going to choose color 1 and have it as solid as possible. And just like we did previously, you're going to have it fade out as much as possible into white. I then took the pink color, color number 2, and started it as dark as I could possibly and as solid as possibly on the far right side, and had the two meet in the middle where they would blend and converge, therefore creating a brand new color in the middle. Same thing happens with the two on the bottom. The only difference is if you look on the directions there, it says two complementary colors. Those are colors that are across from each other. So even though the camera picture may not be really clear, that's actually, believe it or not, a red, and this is a green. They are complements of each other, and where they merge, I create sort of this muddy, sort of grayish green color. Why would I want that? Well, if you look below, it's going to be very helpful when I create shadows, especially when I look at that core shadow area of a three-dimensional object. So just like the apple up above that's a photograph, your task is going to be to blend the colors, and in some cases you're going to need to blend analogous colors, and in some cases you're going to need to use complementary colors. The final one of the 4 boxes on the top is to take two analogous colors again, which is identical to up above, and your job this time is to use cross-hatching. So if you're not familiar with cross-hatching, or it has escaped your brain at this moment, all that it is a using of lines. Basically think of it like chain link fence. The chain link fence is very tight and close together to create a solid color on the left side, and it's going to flawlessly blend. And I took, in this case, my violet colored pencil, and I made crisscrosses, both diagonals, and then as I got further to the far side, I obviously had it fade out. So you can see here that there's no violet cross-hatching at the far side. I then took yellow and did the very same thing, crisscrossing very tightly and closely together. And as it got further down the scale, the opposite direction, going towards my left, I had the two of them blend. So you can see what looks like chain link fence crisscross hatching in the center section where they combine. The bottom section is you taking the concepts you learn up here and now putting them in action down below. So the first task is to take all of the 2-point perspective boxes that you can see down below and add color. Again, you can choose the color that you want, but your task is to make it look like it has form and value, meaning that it has height, width, and depth, and no longer looks like flat boxes. So what I did was I chose blue, I chose white, and I chose orange. Why orange? Well, if you remember the color wheel, orange's complement is blue. So by adding a little bit of orange in the darkest areas, maybe you can even see it a little bit, I got this very dark, verging on black or black-like color that would be on the back. How do I know that the value's on the back? Take a look at where the sun is shining. The sun is shining what would be the top of the boxes. So the boxes that are on the ground down here, you can see barely have any color. They are a tint of blue. Although on the camera they may look completely white, they're actually a tint of blue. And then I used a slightly darker tint of blue on the sides in all 5 cases. And then I used blue plus orange and I used what I knew up above in blending them and overlapping them to create the darkest color. You should note that each side of the box is a completely different value, and you can very clearly tell where one side of the box starts and the next one starts. There's a clear, definitive edge because these are hard-edged objects. You want to make sure not only do you color all 5 boxes properly according to the lighting source, but you then also want to come up with the cast shadows. So I knew that if the light was shining on the far left side top of all of these boxes, that the bottom right side of all of the boxes would have a strong cast shadow. I simply took the same blue that I used in the back of the box and I colored it as solid as I could. And in fact, I even snuck a little bit of orange in there so that it could be as solid as possible. You'll note, I'm going to put some more orange on right now. The more orange that I put on, the darker and muddier that blue gets, which is exactly what I would want for a cast shadow. I want it to be nice and solid and crisp, and I want it to be dark, because that's a shadow. You'll notice finally, we're going to go back to what we talked about near the beginning, is the apple. That's going to ask you to use at least 5 layers of both local and non-local color. So we haven't talked a lot about that, but basically that means this. Local color is the color you kind of assign it when you look at it. So obviously when you look at this, you probably think at first red. But if I look at it on second look, you're going to notice that not only does it have red, it has places where it might have yellow, it has some section where it has white or even a tint of red, and then of course it has areas that are where the core shadow is. It's really, really dark. And you might on first read think that it's black, but no, it's not black. It's actually red's complement, which is green. So if you look at the example I did down here, I've actually used all of these colors to create my apple. I've used obviously red, the local color. I've used 2 other analogous colors, colors that are next to each other, yellow and orange. And then I, believe it or not, used a little bit of green. That green color is what gives me the shadow. I know that from up above when I mixed complementary colors together in this box here. In addition, I used white to make tints. So for example, where that highlight is or that highlight there. And when I was all done, I even used a tiny, tiny little bit of blue in my cast shadow so that it would seem a bit more natural. I didn't even use brown in the stem. I used the green and the red overlapping, and I was able to get what looks like a stem color because I knew that when I colored it darkly, I would get this sort of muddy brown color. So that's really all there is to this worksheet, but it's key and important that you not only read the directions, that you make sure that you understand that other than the first box that's up here, all of these are overlapping blended colors, carefully selected based on whether they were analogous or complementary. And obviously neatness, attention to detail, and accuracy, including cast shadows, are going to be important for everything on the bottom. You should check out this video first before you ask me any questions. Good luck.